Welcome, innovators, business owners, entrepreneurs, technology experts, academia, government R&D communities, and members of the North Carolina innovation ecosystem. This is Defense Technology Talks, hosted by the North Carolina Defense Technology Transition Office, or NC DEFTECH. This podcast will showcase various technologies with local and national experts who aim to solve complex national security problems. In the coming weeks, we will highlight North Carolinians with the potential to, or those that have positively contributed to enhancing the capabilities of our warfighters, law enforcement, and first responders. We will also feature government leaders in research and development who have helped shape the future in this domain. These podcasts are just one of the many free services provided by the North Carolina government to assist the North Carolina innovation ecosystem to thrive and provide solutions to our nation. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Rob Robinson from the Defense Technology Transition Office, and this is your current episode of Defense Technology Talks. Hey, we're going to break it down a little bit, talk to you about the 2023 summit that is coming in July, the Defense Technology Symposium, per se. We just came out of the Federal Textile Summit that we had in Raleigh last week, and it is June the 6th that we're recording this. So keep in mind, because it's June the 6th, we want to honor those that have served in the United States military, particularly those that fought in the largest joint combined air and land assault in Normandy 78 years ago. It's hard to believe that that was 78 years ago. If you know nothing about the Normandy invasion, I would encourage you to find your streaming service and watch Band of Brothers. It does a pretty good job of recording the events of the 101st leading up to the Normandy invasion. And if you kind of want to see what it looked like to hit Omaha Beach, the first 7 to 10 minutes of Saving Private Ryan is pretty immersive enough. And it's pretty crazy that we are actually celebrating, almost 80 years of that event. If those of you that know anything about Winston Churchill, when the Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor, he popped champagne. And the reason why he popped champagne is because he knew at that point that the United States was going to get into the fight. And speaking of getting into the fight, the Defense Technology Summit is a great opportunity for you to talk to warfighters and understand their needs so you can better play in the government space. But without further ado, I will pass it over to Bob. We also have someone else special on the call with us, but we'll allow him to introduce himself when we get to that point. And let's talk about the Defense Technology Summit. Bob, over to you.
All right. Thanks, Rob. Great intro. Yeah, absolutely. The largest joint warfighting operation in history. And that's what this is all about. That's what DTS is all about, a joint warfighting roundtable. So attention to orders. This is your warning order for the Defense Technology Summit, DTS 23. We're going to talk about some of the background, why you should attend as a government office or as a academia, industry, small business, big business. You got to be there. You got to be where the warfighters are. And we're going to hear from a warfighter here in just a minute. We always like to do a national strategy crosswalk, starting with the White House, the national security strategy. Also posted, you'll see in a minute, are the critical and emerging technologies list. Again, we are DEFTECH, the Defense Technology Transition Office. We help small businesses transition your idea, your technology into a warfighting capability. In support of the National Defense Science and Technology Strategy out of DoD, and then also the National Defense Strategy with the critical and emerging technology areas from the Office of the Undersecretary of Defense, which all get rolled up into the comptroller's budget for DoD as part of annual president's budget for each fiscal year. And this will kick off again in October. So the request is before Congress now. And then, of course, every year is the annual National Defense Authorization Act. At the operational level, of course, each service has their modernization priorities. Reflected here is the Army with their modernization strategy, their modernization priorities, and then working down to the tactical level with the active broad agency announcements and SBIR topics. And now I'll turn it over to Captain Green to kind of give us a tactical warfighter perspective.
Yeah, I appreciate it, Bob. So Captain Harrison Green, duty Army captain, kind of on an academic sabbatical working with the DEFTECH team this summer. Obviously a lot going on the slide, right? And from my perspective at the tactical level, ultimately we're the ones that are out there, I'm working with folks that are generating these needs. They're actually coming up with the tactical problem that needs to be And then all of that kind of gets funneled down into these documents, the national security strategy, right? The comptrollers each year. And honestly, it's a difficult thing to navigate, especially for small businesses. But that's where the DEFTECH team kind of comes in and is able to navigate all of these documents. So I personally am going to be attending the DTS. I think it's going to be a great event and an awesome opportunity for tactical and operational leaders to voice those needs.
All right. Thanks, Captain Green. Ron?
Yeah, I was going to jump in real quick. Another thing that you have to pay attention to is how the national strategy gets communicated. So if you ever watched a presidential speech, a White House press briefing, whether it be with the press corps, whether it be the national security rep, whether it be anyone, anytime somebody is speaking on television from the administration, they are providing strategic guidance. So if you pay attention to the news, then you're getting small nuggets of strategic guidance, which get captured into these documents that get passed on to everyone within the organization. So at the Department of Defense, perfect example is electrification of vehicles, right? The president said that was one of his campaign speeches. As we started moving into the campaign, you could see the administration taking moves to electrify vehicles to reduce the natural fuel burden off of the military. And so as you see those transition points happening, you watch it play out in real time. So they say it on the campaign trail. They say it in a speech saying, hey, look, this is the policy that I'm going to enforce. And then that policy starts to trickle down in all the national documents, whether it be from the national security strategy or even if it's just from a public speech. But they kind of trickle into those tactical units and affect the outcomes for those organizations as well. Over.
Absolutely. Now, again, reflected on the slide is Army heavy. I think the Army has one of the best processes out there, but this is going to be a joint warfighting session and joint warfighter discussion. One thing I'd like to bring into discussion here is about the Government Accountability Office. The GAO has stated that protecting our critical technologies, aeronautics, and space systems is necessary for maintaining U.S. military superiority. Adversaries often try to steal or illegally export these types of technologies, and protecting them requires collective efforts across the federal government. And one last snippet I found again, so this isn't DEFTECH's opinion. This is what the national offices and accountability are saying, is that critical technologies, such as elements of artificial intelligence and biotechnology, are those necessary to maintain U.S. technological superiority, and as such, they are often the target of theft, espionage, illegal export. And then the DoD has taken many measures to protect that. But let's get back to the DTS. When we look at the National Critical and Emerging Technologies list, you may have seen, again, we draw everything from national priorities. Why? Because that's where the funding is. We try to get ahead of the funding priorities, understanding the government fiscal years and understanding the investment priorities for the DoD and the services. How do you know? They outline it in their strategies. And then it's laid out in their CBER topics and their broad agency announcements. And again, everything works cyclically as we wrap up this fiscal year in September for fiscal year 23. October 1 begins fiscal year 24. So these are the types of technologies that the government is looking for that are deemed of national importance. The National Defense Strategy states the focus on the joint mission. This is where we draw our guidance for the DTS. 2022 National Defense Strategy requires us to make the right technology investments. That means making carefully crafted decisions that bolster our comparative and competitive advantage, rather than engaging in wasteful technology races. Whenever possible, place emphasis on developing asymmetric capabilities to the joint force. To achieve the objectives of the National Defense Strategy, we must leverage these critical and emerging technologies. And the three focus areas for the National Defense Science and Technology, you saw that on the collage, are to focus on the joint mission, create and field capabilities at speed and scale, and ensure the foundations for research and development. And again, those are all the foundations that we're building upon for the Defense Technology Summit 23 to take place at Fayetteville Tech Community College on July 25th in support of the AUSA Warfighter Summit, July 26 and 27. Again, another representation of the critical technology areas as pulled out of the S&T strategy. And another representation of the critical technology areas from the Undersecretary of Defense for Research and Engineering. Three main bins are seed areas of emerging opportunities, effective adoption areas, and defense-specific areas. For more details, reach out to your DEFTECH team, or you can watch the video. what I'd like to shift gears just a little bit and turn it back over to Captain Green is, hey, why attend a summit like the Defense Technology Summit? What's the value proposition for government personnel?
Yeah, so I'll just kind of read through a little bit of this for those of you that are joining us on the podcast. So, obviously join the team at DTS 23 and be part of the Joint Warfighter Innovation Technology Roundtable. So it's an interactive forum that's bringing together military leaders like myself, subject matter experts, and technology experts from various branches of the armed forces. And by attending, you're going to have the opportunity to, one, engage in dynamic discussions. So you can participate open and edge technologies, their applications, and their impact on military operations, and contribute your insights and experiences to shape the future of warfighting technologies. And then second will be to collaborate and exchange ideas. So foster collaboration and exchange ideas with fellow government personnel, industry experts, and academia. Build valuable networks and partnerships that can support future technical advancements and enhance the readiness and effectiveness of the armed forces. And if you want the next slide here. So third, you can identify technology gaps and solutions. So contribute to identifying technology gaps and exploring potential solutions. Your firsthand knowledge and expertise will help drive innovation and ensure that emerging technologies align with the specific needs and requirements of government agencies. That's really the key here. And then four, shape research and development priorities. So inform future research and development priorities by sharing your organization's full initiatives and the direction of technological advancements to address emerging challenges and enhance warfighting capabilities. So all that together really provides an outstanding opportunity for, from the government perspective on why attend DTS and what it can do for you.
Yeah, thanks, Captain Green. Appreciate your support and helping to shape this format, this discussion, this dialogue around the joint warfighter. So it's great to have a warfighter on the team, even though everyone on the DefTech team are retired and transitioned military. So we've wore the same uniform, been in the same shoes, walked the same mud, and been in the same combat zones. So, Rob, why do you think small businesses and academia should join in kind of the discussion, the dialogue, and let's say the fight?
Coming to these events are so important, and the reason why they are is because it goes back to the top 3 bullets on the slide. If you're watching this, you'll see it, but if you're listening, it gives you access to government needs and requirements. If you don't talk to the government, you don't know. And that's one of the biggest issues that both the small businesses have as well as the government. They don't know that your technology exists because they don't have the time to dive into they don't have the time to dive into all the technology innovations that have happened over the last 20 years because they have a fight on the horizon that they have to focus in on. You get an opportunity to showcase your innovations. And you don't just get to showcase your innovations at the DTS, but those are at all of the events that DefTech supports, as well as the North Carolina Military Business Center. Working in concert with them, we have multiple events throughout the course of the year that allow you to have a great opportunity to get your technology in the hands of warfighters and explore potential partnerships. And the last thing is you get to learn. If you know nothing about the military, coming to these events will open your eyes completely because it's like, wow, I knew nothing about this. How do I make this work? And so it gives you a chance to chit chat with the opportunities with other people. And again, it goes back to the top of the slide. It says access to funding and support. So the support comes. DefTech will be here to support you. We're at no cost. However, reaching that funding source or that funding opportunity is probably just as critical for your organization's success or your business's success to keep moving forward. Not a lot of capital gets spent in the Department of Defense. There are some pockets of growth, and we've been talking to those folks to try and find those venture capital folks or private capital people in the state of North Carolina or even on the edge of North Carolina that want to support you. However, you can't always rely on, outside funding to get you over the hump. And with all the SIBRs, the STTRs, and other availabilities through the government's support channels in innovation and development, you could also tag into funding. And if you submit for SBIR or STTR, one of the best parts of North Carolina is we do have matching funds available with the One North Carolina Small Business Matching Program. So that's a great opportunity to continue to grow. And then again, networking. Ken Coleman says it in the proximity principle, but your network is your net worth. So if you don't know how to talk to people, you're missing out on opportunities that could be lucrative in the future, or you may find a teammate that could help offset some of the costs that you have. But either way, you need to register because you don't know if you don't go. Back to you, Bob.
Yeah, great points. And before we move on from the value proposition, Rob, I'll ask you to talk about TPOCs and understanding and the chance to meet those technical points of contact. And then I'll ask Captain Green to kind of chime in, about warfighter touch points and why it's important for small business and academia to hold those types of discussions, to run their solutions by and continuously learn. Rob?
Yeah, so technical point of contact. If you're submitting for an SBIR, which is a Small Business Innovation and Research Grant, you need to have a technical point of contact to help guide you through the process. And that's basically a master sergeant or above to say, this is an actual need in our branch of service that is required to satisfy a requirement. So if you don't have that TPOC, then it's very, very hard for you to get over the hump, particularly in the SBIR, STTR space. However, if you come to these events, you're going to have TPOCs looking to find solutions. And if you fit, then you might have I hate to call it this, but it literally is speed dating for small businesses. If you come to these events, it gives you an opportunity to talk to all the people that you could potentially talk to and land something that may be lucrative. And again, it's not always about the money, but as a small business owner, you need to keep as much funding moving into your business as you can to keep yourself moving forward. And I'll pause there. Thanks.
All right, Captain Green?
Yeah, no, I think it's a tremendous opportunity. So, I recently attended the Federal Textile Summit, and at FedTech, there were so many innovators there with these fantastic ideas. But where real growth happened was when other green suit, people that are out there actually searching for a need to be fulfilled with the innovators and start to kind of, spitball ideas and take those technologies and turn them into the real innovations that government agencies are going to have a need for. So, I mean, absolutely a tremendous opportunity for innovators out there. You can't be everyone all the time, right? You can't have all the ideas, but able to network and have conversations, it really has the potential to have a dramatic impact on your business.
Yeah, absolutely. Appreciate that. Yeah, we believe that events like this, we're greater than.
I'll pass it back to you, Bob.
Yeah, thank you. In events like this, we definitely believe it's a whole estate approach for national security. So that's why we run events like the DTS. So we're right at 17 minutes, but I'm going to proceed and I'll move through the warning order. We talked about this on the DEFTECH coffee call this Friday. But again, our aim is to bring Department of Defense technology modernization priorities and interest areas into the spotlight, so that, like you heard Rob and Captain Green talk about, we can match those innovative solutions with the actual requirements, the gaps to enhance our warfighting and our joint warfighting abilities as laid out in our concepts and our national documents. For enemy forces, according to the 2022 National Defense Strategy, China is the pacing threat of the U.S., and Russia remains the acute threat. There are asymmetric threats to the U.S., nation states that are in direct competition to America's technological advantage and our national values. You heard that from the Government Accountability Office, or GAO. Friendly forces, the Defense Technology Summit, again held on July 25th, bringing together military personnel, other government officials, industry leaders, and academia to discuss and showcase the latest advancements in defense technology. Our mission is the North Carolina Military Business Center and NC DEFTECH conduct the Defense Technology Summit on July 25th, 2023. It's going to take place from about 8 o'clock until 4 o'clock to leverage the capabilities of the North Carolina innovation ecosystem. Why? To advance the objectives outlined in the National Defense Strategy from last year, 2022, and the brand new National Defense Science and Technology Strategy. The mission restated. The NCMBC, or Military Business Center, and NC DEFTECH conduct the Defense Technology Summit on July 25th, 2023, from 8 a.m. till 4 p.m. Eastern to leverage capabilities of the North Carolina innovation ecosystem to advance the objectives outlined in the 2022 National Defense Strategy, 2023 National Defense S&T Strategy. Again, we've talked about this. Our goal is to foster innovation. The timeline, we just discussed that. Concept of operations, I think it was laid out well in the value proposition. But our goal is to enhance defense capabilities, stay at the forefront of technological advancements, and to grow the defense industrial base here in North Carolina. So we'll do that through, again, Joint Warfighting Roundtable. It'll be an open dialogue. Not a lot of slides, if any slides at all, consisting of keynote speeches, panel discussions, technology demonstrations, and, as discussed, networking opportunities. Again, at Fayetteville Technical Community College, a lot of these details are found on the website: dress code, equipment, bring your own networking devices as needed for taking notes and connecting with folks on LinkedIn. Rob talked about the strength and the power of a network. Paragraph 4 is sustainment. Again, we'll provide everything. There'll be food included. All the audiovisual is fantastic at NC State, and we'll pass out regular updates over the coffee call and also on our mobilized platform. For command and signal, please reach out to your DEFTECH team, and we'll pass any changes out promptly. And we appreciate everyone listening to this brief and listening to our discussion and highlighting why you should attend the DTS. Administrative, again, you'll see the cost on the website. Registration, you need to register as soon as possible. And if you're going to sign up for a booth, we'll talk about the TIDE program, but I want to keep moving. We're right about 20 minutes. But the Defense Technology Summit aims to foster collaboration, innovation, and knowledge sharing among military, industry, and academic stakeholders. Through the summit, we seek to explore cutting-edge technologies, drive advancements in defense capabilities, and maintain our technological superiority on the battlefield, not just today, but make the right investments into the future through R&D and other mechanisms. By participating in the summit, demonstrate our commitment, staying in the forefront of defense technology and strengthening our partnerships to address emerging challenges and opportunities. How are we going to do that? Is through our TIDE program. We'll talk about it quickly. If you're not familiar with our tech scouting, how do we go out as DEFTECH and find the types of technologies that will be highlighted at the DTS? Is we use a process of a 4-block quad chart and a 1-page white paper. It's not a session to go over the quad chart or the white paper. We hold separate sessions for that. Reach out to your DEFTECH team. But the intent is to match your technology with a government problem in the innovation space. And then through demonstrations and Expo, for example, you get a chance to get feedback from your technology. Later on in the year, we have an opportunity to integrate technology in the experimentation phase in the DAX. And Rob, I'll ask you just to say a few words about that. Why it's important to test out these technologies. Yes, warfighter touch points are important, but how about integrating into a joint warfighting concept?
Yeah, and that's one of the things that's very, very difficult to do, particularly on your own time. So there's going to be several events that are coming up. Some are in the early planning phases. Some are actually going to be executed later on in the fall. And the DAX, as well as some of our other partners that are in the area, are looking to have technology symposiums, both small scale and large scale, and the DAX being one of the larger scale events that we have in the state of North Carolina. It is a partnership organization with the NCNBC and DEFTECH, so we actually don't own anything there, but we actually participate because they see the value in having the DEFTECH team show up and bring in companies that they may not be tracking. And again, because all these businesses are working in concert, what you get is all these disparate technologies come together on a Sunday afternoon, and by Thursday they're executing a full mission profile to include aviation, technical support from drones, robotics, surface to air to surface engagements. You name it, it's done it. Like, if you haven't looked at the video, just look up defenseapplicationsexpo.com and you'll see the website. All the videos are there. But the bottom line is it's a great opportunity to integrate into a joint combined operation. So normally you don't get that opportunity to do that before your equipment hits the hands of warfighters. Well, the DAX is the opportunity to do that. We have some success stories. We had a company last year get introduced into the DEFTECH network, Huck Cycles, and I'm going to plug them just because those guys have been good partners to the DEFTECH team. They went from hearing about the DAX to submitting paperwork for DEFTECH, to submitting their paperwork to the Osprey training facility, getting into the DAX, and executing the mission. And if you watch the videos, you'll see some guys riding around on motorcycles that are 100% electric. And as a result of that, they got the right attention from the right government partners, and they're working on government contracts right now. So that's one of the success stories that happened. And there's tons of other success stories. There's a couple other companies that actually were on SBIR Phase 2 that worked off about $285,000 worth of requirements that they got paid for because they were able to come to the DAX and participate in the experiment, and they bought their technical point of contact. Going back to the previous discussion, is they bought their TPOC and they were able to work off some requirements in real time while they were at the event. So again, not plugging the DAX for the sense of it's an event that's in the state, but I'm plugging it in a sense that it is a partnership opportunity that allows you to grow your technology and get those warfighter touch points. If you don't know any warfighters, come to the DTS, see if you can strike up a conversation and get your technical point of contact, and then submit and see if you make the cut for DAX. Again, it's a little bit different threshold for, DefTech versus Osprey training facility, but either way, it gives you an opportunity to get multiple warfighter touch points over the course of the year. And oh, by the way, if you get something identified in the DTS in July, and then you're able to roll out those corrections or changes and show that to your customer at the DAX in October, that is huge for you as a company. So I just think, keep in mind for all these opportunities, again, you have a finite budget, so it's travel sometimes is a little bit difficult, but do what you can to participate in as many of these events as possible, because the more touch points you have, the more you can close the loop on your solution and get it to market faster. Back to you, Bob.
Yeah, great points. And I'll ask Captain Green as we start to kind of wrap up here. Have you had any experience with the Army Warfighting Experiment, the AWE, possibly Project Convergence, or other local or joint warfighting scenario, integrating new types of technologies? Have you had that experience?
No, personally, I can't say that I've experienced one of those, but from what I've seen of the DAX, I mean, what an opportunity, what other place could you actually put your technology into the hands of other warfighters at the tactical level, allow them to use it and allow them to see how it's solving problems that they have. So no, haven't personally, attended one of these events, but absolutely a fantastic idea. And I think it's really a way to solve problems and create win-wins for everybody.
All right. Well, let's bring it home then. Looking at our TIDE, I'm just going to cover these joint areas again. We're advocating for the Defense Technology Summit, which is going to be on July 25th at Fayetteville Technical Community College. Tying this all together from the national security requirements, the Department of Defense, National Science and Technology Council, Homeland Security, and all the services have developed and published their critical technology lists and modernization priorities. We've got a good cross-section of those requirements, those types of technologies in our current TIDE request for information. So again, you have until June 23rd to submit your 4-block watch chart and your 1-page white paper. Well, what do you get from that? Well, you get to set up a booth at half price. So you can take a look at the website. It'll be in the podcast description to learn more about the DTS. Plus, you have an opportunity to conduct mini briefs. So not only you get to network with folks on the floor, have a booth, and you get to stand up in front of government folks as they tell you about their problems and their needs and their gaps and their requirements. You get to stand up as the hero and provide your innovative dual-use solution to government hard problems. So for the benefit of the podcast, I'll read these last couple sections, turn it over to Rob for closeout. But the Joint Force Technology Requirements, again, it's a joint warfighting roundtable and dialogue. Joint Force seeks novel, disruptive concepts and technology solutions with dual-use capabilities that can assist in tackling the current needs and be applied in current joint warfighting concepts. The intent is to provide the joint force with transformative technology solutions while enabling cost savings throughout the system's lifecycle. Primary focus areas of other joint warfighting critical areas are defined below in the request for information. We showed some of those to the National Critically Emerging Technologies list and the OUSD R&D priority areas as laid forth by Heidi Hsu. Quad charts and white papers are encouraged to address one or more of the focus areas. And like Rob said, focus on the use case, know your customer, and submit. Disruptive technologies in order to combat our persistent and pacing threats of China and Russia. The Joint Force seeks operational breakthroughs, novel solutions, or unexpected capabilities. These capabilities can address known problem areas from a new angle by promoting revolutionary new approaches of opportunities that can qualify as high-risk, high-reward change, currently accepted approaches or capabilities. So let's transform the needs for the warfighter and present your technology at DTS 23 on July 25th, 2023. Rob, we'll turn it over to you to close us out. We'll be right at 30 minutes.
All right, thanks again, everybody, for joining us today on another episode of Defense Technology Talks. Normally, we talk federal opportunities in this one, but we are now focusing a little bit more on some events that are coming up closely. So if you are not tracking and have not registered for the MBB, which is next week, you should jump on that right now, because that's the best opportunity for you to get in there. And the other part of it is the Defense Technology Summit. Like, if you need to show up to these events, the amount of money that you could spend on marketing throughout the course of the year, you could maximize it by coming to all the events that are hosted by the North Carolina Defense Technology Transition Office, or the NCMBC. And the reason why I say that is because if you look at the price point difference between the AUSA Warfighter Summit and Expo versus the Defense Technology Summit, which we are running in support of that, there's a huge difference. So if you have a finite budget, you may want to check out the Defense Technology Symposium versus going to the AUSA event. I can't make that decision for you. I can only make a recommendation based off of what I've seen. If you are coming to the Defense Technology Summit, it's a much smaller event. It's a lot more intimate, where if you go to the Crown Coliseum, you're in the Crown Coliseum and you're competing with all those other people that are trying to get the warfighters' attention. And if you don't have a compelling technology, or if you're still in the prototype phase, it may benefit you more to come to the DTS than it would be to go to AUSA. I can't make that decision for your company. I can only make the best recommendation that I can from where I'm sitting here today. The other piece of it is like, we are constantly looking to talk to you. So if you want to be on a podcast, if you want to talk about your technology and kind of see if there's a market for it, let us know. You're more than willing to come on the podcast. We do these all the time. Take a look for one of the FedTech's companies did a podcast with me earlier this week that will be released tonight. And so you'll have the opportunity to kind of listen from their experience and figure out the questions so you can answer, what your company's about, what government problem are you trying to solve, what's your dual purpose technology, and how everything else fits in with your overall scheme of maneuver to get you over the hump and into the defense technology space. But since we have him here today, I'm going to toss it over to Harrison to give him the final thought, and we'll close this thing out. But Harrison, any final comments before we close the show?
Yeah, sure. Just kind of from the warfighter perspective, seeing some of these technologies at these events, kind of an interesting thing to see, right? But ultimately, what I want to see there is, are you a problem for me, right? So, highly encourage you to show up to the DTS, but make sure, you're ready to have these conversations with folks. Make sure you're ready to network and be open-minded about the innovations that your technologies can help. I think this is a tremendous opportunity, actually, meeting other green suitors, other warfighters, to kind of see where you can plug in, where you can find that solution, because you're not finding that problem that you need to solve. So the entrepreneurial mindset of what job needs to be done, you might as well come and talk to the folks that know the job that needs to be done. So fantastic opportunity. Highly encourage you to go. And obviously continue working with the DEFTECH team. That's all I got.
All right. You heard it here first. Defense Technology Summit is coming up July 25th. You have the MPB next week. Take a look for the podcast from FedTech. So we had quite a few companies talk on the podcast. We have a total of 3 that came out of the FedTechs. Great companies, quick snapshots of what they do and their technologies. A lot of their information is in the podcast description. So if you find them interesting, run them down and start communicating. All this is about communicating and providing the opportunity to do better in your business. We can't run your business for you. We can help. And the best thing that you can do is open the door so you have the best opportunity to communicate. But for Captain Green and Bob Burton, I'm Rob Robinson from the Defense Technology Transition Office, and this has been Defense Technology Talks, and we will talk to you guys next time. Thanks. Thanks for listening to this week's episode of Defense Technology Talks, hosted by the North Carolina Defense Technology Transition Office, or DEFTECH. The views expressed in this broadcast are solely those of the individual contributors. As indicated, DEFTECH does not take responsibility for those statements or opinions and accepts no responsibility or liability for any inaccuracy or omissions reported during this program. The content interviews are fair use for instructional purposes and to build awareness for the North Carolina innovation ecosystem. The full version of this presentation has been uploaded to our Mobilize platform. Mobilize is just another free service provided to you to access more national security and business collaboration opportunities. You can sign up for more information at deftech.nc.gov. Join us soon for the next podcast coming to a platform near you. DEFTECH is a subsidiary of the North Carolina Military Business Center and receives its support from Fayetteville Technical Community College.